everyone. Welcome back to Data Over Coffee, where Ramon and I sit together and have casual conversations on topics from the data world. Um, we break down concepts and make things simpler, make concepts simpler for you to easily understand. Now, I hope you all have your coffee because today we are diving into a new topic, which is data cloud. What data cloud means in simple words, it's basically the source that your data is coming from is not in your local machine or not in your city or not in your country. Even it can come from 1,000 miles away, right? So if a company in America uses their data and that data is stored in Australia, for example, servers in Australia, then they access it via data cloud. When we talk about data cloud, what it actually means, how it all works, how the ecosystem works, what are the benefits, what are the disadvantages, if there are any, these are the questions that we'll be answering, and Ramon, our very good friend, will be helping us answer these questions. So before diving into the topic, let's welcome Ramon. Hey Ramon, how are you? How's your week been?
Hey Arjun, good man. Has been a good week. However, as I mentioned to you the other day, it's been busy because it's the end of the year. By the time we are recording this, is close to the end of the year. I thought that we're really closing everything, but still a lot of teams gathering, company things. Even today is my wife company dinner, so friends that we need to see before the new year. So has been a bit busy, but I've been trying to slow it down somehow and keep the time for this because, when we started the podcast, we commit to something to do one every second week, but sometimes the life just challenges us to
gets in the way.
But that's I think to make things.
I think that's normal, as long as it's okay to break that continuity as long as you are coming back to your commitment. So that is more important, I feel like. So it doesn't matter if we are not able to record episodes every 2 weeks, as long as we come back the third week and say, okay, let's do it. So that is what we are doing. But it's been good to see you, good to hear you.
Thank enjoying you for the flexibility.
Enjoying the company dinners and the gatherings and get-togethers before we move into 2026. And I think by the time this episode gets released and goes live, we'll already be in 2026. So happy New Year, everybody. All right, let's jump in. Ramon, let's dive into data cloud, enlighten us what it is, and everything that we can grasp in this session about data cloud.
Oh, thank you. This is a broad topic, but before to start, I would just want to share that Arjun is our specialist in data quality and also QA testing, and I am the most expert on hands-on the tool with data transformation and architecture. So that's why I will be covering this topic. So if you have any specific question for Arjun as a QA or for me as a data architect engineer, please let us know. I will be more than happy to help you. So I think that there are certain topics that we'll be covering in this podcast that sometimes they will overlap, because last time we spoke about data pipelines, and this topic tend to overlap because data pipeline, it can happen in your computer or can happen in the cloud as well. So the first thing that I want to clarify is, like, when I say cloud data, what do you think? You just mentioned that cloud data could be from where do you consume your data, where is it stored, okay? But it's also, there's another part that we now need to miss, which is the compute, all right? Which is the engine that helps to transform our data.
Right.
Okay. So, the main vendors like Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, even Microsoft Fabric, AWS, you have a Snowflake, you have quite a few vendors that are quite popular nowadays. And all of them, they offer you different products, different solutions. Right. But they offer you a part to store the data, and also compute an engine to make this data transformation. So all the engine that make the connection possible and transformation and make the data to save it clearly into one storage, that's
Right.
just the compute. So you need to have this really present, because there are companies who does the transformation on premise and then they save the data on the cloud. There are other companies that do this purely on the cloud, and there are companies who has everything on premise, but duplication on different premises. For example, you are in a company who has 3 different branches around New Zealand. Let's say we have one in the south, one in the one in the south, one in the center, and one in the north.
Yeah.
And in which place we have a storage, and we can make duplication. So we have on premise, but we have duplicate in different places.
Right.
But within this storage of the data in the cloud, we get the opportunity to store the data in multiple places, which means that apart of to have redundant servers, redundant storage, you have redundancy on locations. And this is one of the parts which is more tricky on the data on the cloud, because the more duplications, the more storage that you, the more location, the more regions that you have. And I say, like, I would like to have a duplication in Europe, I have a duplication in America, and now I need to have one storage in America, because there are many users that hold the data from there, and also in Europe. And so you ended up with an environment full of duplication, but also together to increase the reliability of this, increase the price. And this is one of the tricky parts on data on the cloud, which we'll be covering just in a second. But data on the cloud means we're storing data in a cloud, which is someone else's computer, as someone says once.
Yeah.
All right. So, and what is the reason that the companies are moving into the cloud? It's because it helps you with the scalability of your solution. For example, you started with a small app that you're running in black box in your home, but however, there are more customers that increase from one day to another, from 100 to thousands.
Yeah.
And the cloud gave you the elasticity to be able to grow as your app, for example, grow, or your company grow. So this is one of the reasons why people, of course, companies move to the cloud. The other reason is because it's cheaper.
Okay.
And here is a tricky point as well, because what cheaper means for companies, it will depend on the level expertise and the maturity that you have in your business. For example, we have a huge organization who needs to pay for a whole team of data engineers or system engineers to support their servers with their data. So this become a big cost for the organization. For example, you have 5 engineers that they need to maintain, they need to upgrade the servers, they need to do many things within the computers. So this become to a cost. So if you, for example, you are storing, let's say, like 10 terabytes of data, which is moving all around, but the thing is, like, 5 engineers probably is too expensive in comparison if you move into the cloud. Because when you move it to the cloud, you don't pay for maintenance. And this is the other caveat, because the other important thing is because you can have a remote machine to connect into the cloud. However, more of the solutions that from where we put the data on the cloud are working in instances, which means that we create a data pipeline. We make the data be stored in a cloud. However, we are no need to remote into a remote desktop, which is a computer in the cloud. This is what used to be in the early days, when you used to borrow a computer in the remote desktop in the cloud, for example, from AWS or something like that, but you have to maintain the software and everything. But now with the instances, you can use something like BigQuery, or you can use something like Microsoft Fabric, and you don't need to install anything. Everything is installed, and you use just a part of the software that you want to use to load your data.
Wow, that's interesting, because I always thought that data cloud, like moving your data to cloud, would be expensive than storing it locally. But I think what you mentioned is 100% accurate, that if you store your data locally, you need people to maintain it, to always keep the servers up to date and maintain the quality of data and the accessibility, and ensure that the pipelines are working and the data is accessible and everything. But if you move your data to cloud, then you don't need that many people to maintain. So I guess the upfront cost of moving to cloud is more, but maintenance cost goes down, which is very high when you store your data locally. So compared long term, you will be saving money if you move your data to cloud. Is that correct understanding? Yeah.
Yes, and also it's true that upfront it could be expensive because you need engineers to prepare all your data pipelines into the cloud. That is the upfront cost. However, there is for example, if you just start a new app, and then in the past you used to say, I need to buy a server, and then I need to pay the licenses for the server. I don't know if you faced to buy the calls and everything from Windows Server. They were super expensive. And then you build the whole server, you spend around $10,000, and then you make a start. However, nowadays with the data on the cloud, you just started with 5 cents per hour or something like that, or spending $1 per day, which is really cheap in comparison when you're just starting and you're just testing your product. So you can start now for a few cents instead of to invest in a whole server. And also because in the cloud you have all the compute that you want. Of course it becomes expensive, but you say like, actually I want 2 more cores, I want more RAM and 1 more GPU. Nowadays you can also be flexible on GPU. So it's like you build your own Frankenstein in the cloud depending on your requirement and also the flexibility that you need. So definitely it's become cheaper as a cheaper solution, especially for startups who are starting. But also you need to be really conscious that as your sales increase on the product, you're also monitoring properly the usage of the cloud, because if the sales increase, however, there's another line on the expenses of the cloud, it will be
that
really,
also increases.
Definitely.
Well,
sorry?
No, go ahead.
No, I'll start with another point, but you have a comment on this?
Yeah, I wanted to take the opportunity to actually disclose something here. This is very interesting. This is becoming very interesting, because I am actually working on building an app. So I won't be giving too many details here, but I think these are the things that I will have to keep in mind when the app actually goes into market, and when it actually people starts using it. So this is really already becoming very helpful to me. Cool. Let's continue.
Anytime. If you wanna some help in the data architect or something, just yell out, because then we have different kinds of concepts. But the last point, what business are moving into the cloud is because it's scalable, cheaper, and faster. All right. So faster means that, for example, when you start in the cloud, sometimes it's a bit painful, because when you create a new server, you need to wait a couple of minutes or few minutes. And this becomes like, actually, I thought the cloud was way faster, but something at the beginning from the setup is a bit slower. But when you start to stream data, you cannot compare your home or your office bandwidth in comparison with Amazon data center or Microsoft data center. So it's not, and also even there could be one of your providers that is sitting in the same data center that you are putting the data from. So it's really hard to compare the speed when you are in a shared cluster. So
Right.
it just is scalable, cheaper, and faster. All right. And some of the real life examples is streaming data, or sorry, streaming all the solution from Netflix, Amazon Prime, and all the providers from streaming, YouTube, all their data. Can you imagine that they have the data on the cloud? So that makes the things much easier for them. Banking as well, logistic, retail, everyone nowadays is on the cloud to be able to support the high demand. Can you imagine a website nowadays running in a server in an office? That is something that no one can imagine nowadays.
Yep.
There are probably one or two companies or few companies who have this kind of infrastructure, but it's because of to be secure, be reliable, or just want to do things differently. But nowadays, every single website is sitting in the cloud. Same with the cloud. Same with the email servers. In the past, in the offices, they used to have to buy a computer and install the mail server, and when that computer goes down, all the email in the companies used to go down. But then when they move to the cloud, it really get the benefits that to have high reliability, low latency, and everything works smoothly. So this is what is happening nowadays with the data. Once we get all our data into the cloud, we have more reliability, and also we can be sure that we will get the data when we have. And also there is a concept of redundancy in multiple clouds. So for example, you can have AWS and Microsoft at the same time if you really need a high redundancy. So you can have those kind of option as well. For example, you remember no long time ago when it was some problem in AWS when it went down.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yep. For example, then is when your other solution can start to do certain tasks for you.
Right. So speaking about the options, how do you pick one? So we mentioned there are so many providers that offer you cloud services. When thinking about moving your data to cloud, what should one keep in mind? Now, this is, I think, probably for the startups, who are now getting into scaling their businesses. But what would be those factors that can help the organizations to decide which provider to go to?
I think that most of the providers has a similar pricing.
Right.
I won't say that Azure is 50% more expensive than Google. In terms of the compute, sometimes the cost differ, but we will need to review that solution that you have in mind for your software specifically. Because if you're looking for a high streaming, I will be thinking in something like Kafka, which is not a provider, it's a solution that from where you will be able to store all this data coming from. And then we'll need to compare which solution it will be better. Also, for example, if this software will be just for New Zealand, probably I will choose a cloud solution that they have New Zealand region as an option.
Right.
And as a data center, or for example, if your stream will be Asia, or it will be India, or will be Europe, also could be something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like the amount of transformation that you will need to do. For example, if you're just dumping data, probably a data lake will be something important for you. Or if you would like to have all the data organized, a data warehouse will be something important for you. We'll be covering in the future what a data lake, data warehouse, and object storage is about. But just to put in, for example, you develop a software who take pictures, and all those pictures needs to be stored in the cloud.
Right.
We'll still be calling that as a data because they're picture, and also come with future, comes with metadata and so many features from that.
Yeah.
For example, the post office who delivers stuff to your house, when they get to the door, you sign up to them, and all the information goes to somewhere and goes, of course, to the cloud. But for example, when you need to object storage, there are solutions like Google Cloud Storage or Blob from Azure. So this is a dump from files, from pictures or like CSV files, or there's a place from where you can put all those files there. All right. There's an object storage solution.
Right.
But then you would like to save all the metadata from that photo, the time that has been taken, the driver information, the purchase that you put in there, and probably all those as a tables, because you think something as a all the data comes in nice and neat tables, but sometimes it's not the case, because the matter of the kind of information that you're trying to storage. So when you have everything in tables, things and to put the data in a data warehouse. All right. So on there you will see things like BigQuery, Microsoft Synapse, or Redshift. So depending if you would like to save it in tables and make it clear for analytics or to be able to processing, you will be thinking about BigQuery. But then if you want to have a mix between raw data and unstructured data and structured data, you will be thinking about something about data lake. Have you heard about data lake?
Yeah, that was another question of mine that I wanted to ask you, that like for the audience, that how data cloud is different than data warehousing or data lake. But you already mentioned that we'll be covering those in detail in the future episodes. But yeah, for a brief discussion, if we can just cover what's the main difference between these three.
Object storage like Blob S3 or Google Cloud Storage will help you because it's cheap, and also it's big and unstructured, which means you just dump everything into a huge storage, and then of course you put the right metadata and the right way how to structure the files, but you just throw files there, and it's a cheap solution. Sometimes it's not the faster to pull the data off. However, it will be a cheap way to store terabytes and petabytes, or probably not petabytes nowadays, but megabytes, gigabytes, and all those files. You will be looking to something like object storage. All right.
Right.
However, if you would like to have everything organized, like a customer data, products, and in tables format that you need to do fast queries, for example, you have an app that when you type 2 words, it will come up with all the information. Then you will be thinking in something like a data warehouse, from where all the data is stored, all the data model has been in place. There is a canonical model as well, and everything is structured in a certain way that is easy for you to pull the data and fast. There will be a data warehouse. But this option, this flavor, is the most structured way. So you will need to really think in a way to do proper data models for covering this area. So if your app will be, for example, a store, probably the most likely that you will need to get a data warehouse to pull all the information clearly and organized. However, if your customer will be putting data, dumping data, attaching photo, attaching a CV, probably you will be thinking on object storage. But if you would like to have something between extractory and extractory, you will be thinking about Lakehouse or Delta Lake, which is the solution. And also here you will be hearing a lot of Parquet files. So this is the 3 kind of flavors that you will need to choose when we're talking about storage. Okay.
Right. Okay.
But as
for more structured, for more structured data that has like lots of tables, lots of properties across the tables, the relations, and the proper data model is very structured. In that case, we'll go with data warehouse, and if it is
which could be
raw data,
BigQuery for Google Cloud, Synapse for Microsoft, or Redshift if you are looking for each. I would say that pretty much each solution, each provider offer you similar solution and similar flavors. So I think it's really hard nowadays to compare them, because each one has a solution for Blob, a solution for data warehouse, a solution for data lake. So a part of that, you have something inside called Databricks. So Databricks also been a lot of in the cloud nowadays, and Azure has part of Databricks inside of their solution. But then they also create something like called Microsoft Fabric will be tend to simplify this, but they work mainly on lakes. So that
Right.
this will be, if we start to speak about storage, it will be another
Another
episode.
episode.
So yeah. So
Yeah.
now let's move to the core components of data on the cloud. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So far, so good.
Yes. So far, so good.
I just don't want to overwhelm you with all those tech concepts, but I want you to be familiar when you hear lake. All right. So when lake, you think immediately data on the cloud. When you think data warehouse, it could be on the cloud, it could be on premise as well. But
Right.
also, this is the kind of concept that you normally will hear when you start to work in data on the cloud.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the core concepts that we need to keep in mind is the ingestion. Okay. From where you will be pulling the data, from how the data will be received. It will be batch or streaming. You remember that we covered that the other day?
Yes, we did.
All right.
We did cover that.
So we need a schedule real time. That is so
Mhm.
important for you to define because it will be impact hugely in the payment that you do to the cloud. So then the storage where the data will live. All right. Where you will be keep the data.
Yeah.
Structuring, when structured, you will need to tell me where you would like to keep the data. Processing, you would like to have a serverless compute on demand with no servers, or you would like to have something like a Spark Databricks to scale to big data. All right. For example, if we speak about big data, you will be hearing concepts or products like Spark and Databricks. But if you're thinking about serverless compute on demand or no servers, you will be hearing about different kind of solution. Okay. Then we have processing. Sorry, we have processing already, and then we have consumption. All right. Who will be consuming the data? It will be a website. It will be Power BI. It will be Locker. It will be data scientists. It will be an API integration. It will be a machine learning model. It will be a LLM, and then we can go probably. So the fourth main concept is the ingestion, storage, processing, and consumption. Within those four elements, you will be ready to start to create your architect.
Right.
Which, by the way, data architects is a well-recognized role in the data industry, and it's the one of the best paid in the whole structure. So
you get
if
paid
you're looking,
a lot.
Yes. So as an architect, you get all the flavors, and also you will need to be able to create this model to ingest data, because every solution is different. You cannot compare the data architect that it has Netflix in comparison with YouTube, or in comparison with Dropbox, or in comparison with Mega Upload, or in comparison with a bank, or in comparison with a retail. Everyone will require a different architect. So that is important. And the other thing that in the cloud, which is not much fun if you really like the data, is the security. Here you will need to understand about networking. Network. You will need to understand Active Directory groups, also identity and access management, which is the those three words that you will see in every cloud, which is the IAM, as you just mentioned. It will be give the control who has access and who doesn't. And this is a really important part because you can mess it up quite easily. For example, if you have a data analyst layer that you don't need to get them access to the raw data, you need to have those firewalls in place to be able to create different places to each of the people on the company to consume the data. And it will recap hundreds of different Active Directory groups, different profiles. And this is a whole role, man, because it's that in a big company, you have the analyst, you have the data scientists, you have the salespeople, you have this, you have that, you have so many different roles and so many different roles that they cross paths as well.
Right.
So it will be really important to have someone really with good knowledge and understanding on security and governance.
Yeah.
And I would say that this is the part of more challenging for me when I do the cloud, when I start with a cloud solution, because it's just for me, happy days, not many controls to do. But then it was to say, oh, could I get access to certain tables? Yeah, of course. And then I give you access, and by mistake, you gave access to all the tables, even
Yeah.
payroll, HR, customer. I think that something customer information is something broadly shared in the company, but when you share the table from the salaries, it's really sensitive. So
Yeah.
yeah, so you need to be really careful in the identity and access management. All right. So then the other part of the security is something, I don't know if you heard the concept at rest or in transit.
At rest or in transit, I have heard it, but would love to get a refresher on
Okay,
what
this
it
is
is.
no, but there's so many concepts, man. And to be
Yeah.
fair, I have some bullet points here as remind me all those concepts because there's no way that I remember everything sequentially. But there's something called, of course, encryption of the data.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have a token from where you produce the data, and then you have the same token at the end to decrypt the data. And so there will be cases that you need to have the data protected at rest or in transit. Mostly, for
Yeah.
example, most of the solutions like WhatsApp, they encrypt the data at rest, but also the actual difference between in transit is like in the way how you put the DUS key for encryption. So
Right.
this is a whole another topic, man. So I won't be covering much in here because this is a whole thing that also is even challenged nowadays with AI. There's a lot of encryption keys that they're getting challenged nowadays because they used to think that 16-bit encryption was enough, but nowadays we're speaking about bigger models to be able to protect our data safely. So this is another interesting topic, which I'm not much familiar, to be fair.
But we can explore.
Yeah, we can explore it. That is why we have this podcast. So
Exactly.
this is something else that in the kind of work that I do, I don't work much in encryption. But if you will be thinking in your app and the customer data, probably you will need to have a thought in the encryption. Okay?
It's like basically how secure your data is when it is moving from one place to another, or when it is stored in one place, right?
Yes.
If that is okay. So in transit means basically when it's moving, and at rest is basically when it's stored. Is that it?
I'm not sure about it. I will come back to you with that.
Like I'm just going on the basis of
I
wordings,
remember
the language.
being using encryption many years ago when I used to do communication from like an field protocols from one device to another. That we used to have a encryption key from the source, and we need to copy the same encryption key on the receiver, and with this key, all the data in the transit got encrypted, but you've been able to decrypt it on the other side. All right.
Right. Yes.
But nowadays, the process of encryption became more complex and more robust. So I'm not much updated how it's working with at rest and in transit. Okay. So unfortunately, I cannot extend it on that, but I think that is something that we can cover later.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing that is important in security is networking controls. And here I have more experience because I work a lot in networking architecture. So I used to design a networking solution for companies from the router, VPN, VPC, and private endpoints. So here is how you will need to design if you would like to keep the data internally in your business, you would like to share it with other premises, you would like to, for example, you get the great idea to create 2 regions, but you need to check what is the rules, how they connect those kind of things. And also everything is how you move data from one place to another. And here is when you start to think about what it will be using private tunnels, and it was everything, because now everything is on the cloud. we think there is no actual or physical cables connected from one place to another, but actually we need to, because that was the physical layer, but we need to start to think on layer 2 or layer 3 in terms of networking, because also in the cloud you can have I don't know if you hear about VLANs and different subnets. Also in the cloud you can have different secure subnets. So
Okay.
there's another part that you can explore in terms of networking on the cloud. Okay. And then we have governance. We have something really important that I love it, which is the data catalog and lineage, to tell you from where the data comes from, the data origins, and you get all this data really neat and clear. And I see that many companies require a lot of work on that, which will make everyone's their life much easier on the data catalog and lineage. And then there we have solutions as a Purview or Informatica. So you will hear something about those concepts. And then we have the metadata management, which is something really important. At what time the data got ingested, how many records we receive. All those metadata that is more related with the process itself, it will be stored here as well. And role level security. So if you can want to have a column level security, row level security, there are different kind of roles that you can apply to protect your data. And there are different also compliances that you need to follow. For example, if you are really into security, you are hearing about ISO certifications, and your cloud needs to be certified. There are many clouds that have their own certification, but also as your company, if you're a consultant advisory, you probably also need to be certified. Okay?
Right.
And I think so far we have covered quite a few points. We have covered what is the architecture basics, then the core components, the security and governance. And I think that if we speak about best practices, this is one important topic for you, because especially, let's say, I will put the examples from now onwards, everything in thinking that you are creating a new app, okay?
Yeah.
So
that
it will help you. So you are developing your app, you create your environment, you deploy the app, the customers are happy, and then someone tells you there is a bug in your app.
Right.
Which you think is not much problem, you only have 10 customers, and then there is a typo error, or there is something major that when someone click a button, it goes to somewhere else. All right.
Right.
So the first thing that you'll do the first days, you will go to your computer, you will connect to the app, you will do the changes, deploy, done, happy days. But then when you are 100 customer, 1,000 customer, it's quite hard to do this, because you can break the whole app from one day to another.
Yeah.
And then the customers, nowadays customer become more, they're not much flexible, even though they have everything in your cloud. For example, having your mail offline for 2 days is enough for you to move completely to another provider.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So especially in the days that we're creating hundreds of apps because of the help of AI and different solutions, we need to think on this seriously as well. So it is important for you to have 3 environments, which is development, test, and production.
Yeah.
All right. So probably you are QA, so you are quite familiar with those environments. But you will be, I know that you work in different customers and you won't be disclaiming all of that, but also you see that sometimes the test environment is something that no one touch it. It looks beautiful on paper, but nobody do anything on test. And so even development, you just do something really quick and then to be able to deploy it. But having those 3 type of environments is quite important.
Yeah, as a tester, I live on the test environment, or the staging environment, as we call it. So yeah, that is very important to have these environments, so that if there is a bug. Now, for my app that I'm building, as a tester, I'm making sure that there is no bug leak. So I'm trying to cover each and every possible scenario that can exist, and see if there are any issues or not, if there are any bugs or not. But I think it is very important to understand that no system is perfect, and as the app goes live, or as the systems go live, there are chances of having bugs appear, and for those instances, you don't want to break the app or the solution that you're providing to your customers. So you want to make sure that the code changes that you're doing in the development goes into the staging environment or the test environment first, gets thoroughly tested there, ensure the regression testing is done, which means that that fix hasn't changed anything else or affected anything else. And once you're happy with the fix, then deploy it to production. Otherwise, there is a high chance that if you deploy straight from development to production, you might miss something, regression might not work. And then there is also a concept of like rollback. So if the fix that was done in development environment moves into staging or moves into production, you should have a plan to roll back if things go bad. So to ensure that your solution, your app, your website, or whatever it is, goes back to the last working stage, and then you can continue working on it. Now, because we've touched that from the testing perspective, I just wanted to check with you what it means when testing a data cloud solution. So what we are testing now, from my experience, I would ensure that that if we are talking about multi-nodes, right? So like you mentioned, that duplication or the like one server is data is duplicated across different nodes. So I'll make sure that the data is accurate and matching the base data or source data or whatever you can call it, and there are no discrepancies in the data in two places. And then I will also be testing the latency. For example, if there are reports that are running on data that is sitting on the cloud, then what is the latency in getting those reports generated and stuff like that. But what are the more maybe concepts or things that we can keep in mind, or we should ensure while testing data that is on cloud?
Here is the different kind of layers, because you can have data on multiple regions. Regions is a common topic. It's a common concept that you will be hearing when you work in the cloud. But when you have duplication in region, from your point of view, you just see your data coming through. You don't see like a certain difference between the data coming from here or there. You can go fine tuning that. However, this is not normally what I have done so far. When I put two regions, I just consume the data, and then you just see the data flowing through. So in terms of the testing, most of my testing are one layer on the edge, which is once I receive the data, I will be ensured that the data comes from the API, flows correctly into the data warehouse. That is the kind of testing that I will do. Like the data consistency and also the data structure remains as supposed to be. For example, treating the nulls or checking if I have a blank space, what will happen, or I have double space in a string, how the data will be stored. Those are kind of the testing that I do.
Validation rules as well.
Yes. Yeah, of course. They are, especially if in business. Yeah. Before I jump to the next topic and the next concept, I will just Google it, the data encryption and REST versus transit. Yep. The transit means that we're using protocols as a TLS or SSL, which means that the data goes encrypted during the transit. So if it's someone trying to intercept those packages, they won't be able to read it because they're encrypted with beginning and endpoint keys. All right. However, when you use at rest, data at rest means that the storage itself is encrypted or the storage itself is protected. So you were right. At rest means we are protecting the place where it gets stored, and in transit means we use a kind of encryption to encrypt and decrypt the data from the other side. So this is the two differences. So I have read it. I have played with that, but I didn't remember. So
Good
it
to
can
know. Good
happen.
to know that my basics are clear on
Yeah,
on the security. Okay, that's good.
yeah. Another concept that I have learned working in data on the cloud, it
Yeah.
was EAC. Have you heard about
Okay.
that? Which is
No.
infrastructure as a code.
Okay.
All right.
I might
So
know the
then you
concept, but I might not be familiar with the
infras
term itself.
yeah, infrastructure as a code is like when we start to deploy and create our scripts for creating a storage, creating different layers. But you
Hmm.
start to create those scripts of commands because on the cloud you can work a lot on the CLI, on a lot on the command window. And so
Yep.
you say, create me this storage with this naming convention, and so on and so forth. But
Hmm.
then after of doing all the setup, you ended up with big line of scripts. And also you want to deploy a change, create a new storage. And this is when IAC comes in play, and Terraform helps you with that. Terraform is a solution that helps you to deploy those scripts. For
What
example,
is what is IAC?
infrastructure as code,
Oh, IAC. IAC. Okay. Yeah.
IAC, sorry.
Infrastructure as code.
Yeah, and the most common tool to deploy scripts like this is Terraform. So I use Terraform in Google Cloud, and so from your computer you can deploy those scripts, and they will create a whole new environment. For example,
Right.
you have this whole environment for a customer, which you have the data warehouse, the API connection, so on and so forth. But
Hmm.
then you want to create the same for another customer, so you just have this file, and then you just create a new environment using something like Terraform, and will replicate everything that you have created as well. Because unfortunately, for the cloud, it's not much easy to just to right-click, create a new storage, right-click, create another storage. It's not work as a computer itself. You
Hmm.
need to start to do a lot of scripts. There, in most of the cloud, you have buttons to create a new features, but
Yeah.
if you are working more in the engineering side, you will face either way to do a script. So Terraform
Mm.
helps you with this. Okay,
Terraform.
Terraform. Yes,
Terraform. Yeah.
yes. FORM at the
Yeah.
end, and
Terraform.
Terra with TERRA. Okay.
Mm.
Then we have something that all the programmers love, which is Git. Okay.
Oh yeah, our
Yes.
beloved Git.
Yep. So this is a really neat way and nice way to control of the code that you are deploying.
Yeah.
So it's really important because the first thing you will be using a lot are notebooks.
Mm.
Notebooks in the cloud, which means there is a page from where you put all your code, and
Mm.
then to be able to do those track to changes, you use version control, which could
Okay.
be the most common one is Git.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have cost optimization, which is another topic that we can cover one day. And this is something that probably will be important for you if you're creating your app. How we can start from the smaller, have the more elasticity within the years.
Mm.
So within the time. So this is something that we can discuss. Sometimes we start to think that our app will be huge. But I will say that firstly, start in a safe environment. So let's
Yeah.
start with a small portion, and then within the years, we can start to grow. So in the cloud, you can easily move from 10 gigabyte, right click, and then you go to 1 terabyte easily.
Yeah, it's like your Google Cloud, or what's the Apple version, iCloud. So you've got 5 GB of cloud storage available. When you exceed that, just go and increase your storage to 10 GB or 50 GB. But of course, in this case, we are not talking about 5 GB or 10 GB. We might probably be talking about way higher number.
Another thing that the cloud offers you as well is, of course, we'll need to touch this model, this AI and analytics integration. So if you are familiar with machine learning, the cloud offers you also those flavors in something like TensorFlow or Pandas. Or if you want to do a linear regression, the cloud, it has it has preset up already those machine learning models. So if you are a data scientist or you are just a curious data analyst like myself, you will be playing with these models, and they're available for you in the cloud. And I think that with that we'll be covering most of the main topics. And now we can make a use case. For example, I think that I don't want to go longer for than 1 hour. I like those programs for 40 minutes or so. So let's put a concept. For example, I will make an example, and then this is a real example for someone that I work with.
Yep.
We used to pull the data from APIs and see, even before that, we used to download Excel, connect it into Power BI, and show information.
Right.
The next day, to update the Power BI, you need to go there, download the data, and the report gets refreshed.
Yeah.
That was super time consuming, and also is prone to errors because from one day to another, the data, someone create a out field, and then it break the Power BI. All right. That was the first days. But then we moved to something like create a data pipeline, something that we covered the other days, to transform data and store it in a safe way. And we put it in an SQL server. Okay. That was on premise, happy days, no problems, and then publishing the Power BI. But then within the time, the company started to grow, and they start to hire more people that knows how to do SQL queries. So that computer that we have on premise, I have to share with them how to they will be able to connect to this SQL server. Happy days, easy way to connect. But then there were more people connecting to it. So they started to run queries, heavy queries, to pull more data and more data and more data. And the latency of the SQL server started to increase. It was on premise. Okay. So one person reviewing the data, no problem. 2 people, 3 people, no problem. But the company is starting to started to grow. So we need to have a sustainable way. Option A, buy 2 expensive servers. Option B, move it into the cloud. So we took the decision to move into the cloud because it was the most sustainable way to support analysts within the future. But one of the main concerns is that now the data won't be stored in my office. It will be stored in someone else's computer. So this is one of the biggest assessments that you need to do and evaluate as a specialist and also as a CEO, because you will need to take the decision to move your data into someone else's computer. So within a proper structure, within a proper security, you will be able to go through it. We went through all the assessments, and we've been able to assist the change accordingly. And we assessed, in our assessment, we found that it was the most secure and reliable way to move the data into the cloud. So then that is why we took that decision. Nowadays, everyone consumes the data from SQL Server as well, but it's a cloud premise, which makes the things much faster and low latency. So this is a clear example how we tackle it. So if tomorrow they want to hire more data specialists or more analysts, they will be easy will increase the capacity for the storage. So there's one use case that I just want to share with you, and how we benefit from moving everything into the cloud.
Perfect. That was really helpful. I think we are coming close to the end of this session. First of all, I would like to thank you for the wisdom that you impart on us in every session. It's been a great learning experience personally for me, and I'm pretty sure for our listeners as well. What we have discussed today will definitely help me with my app, and I am giving you a heads up that I'll be reaching out to you with more questions and queries and concerns.
Yeah, we could share it as a use case. As a key takeaway, I just want to share before we finish. It's
Yes.
like cloud make your solution scalable. All right. It's as we just reviewed, it's not just storage or server data. Okay. It's not just like a Dropbox that you save your files. It's way more than that.
Mm.
Architecture first, which means that think and how you will be storing the data. So
Right.
think and how the data will be moving. It will help to save you money, and also it will help you to make your solution more scalable. All right.
Mm.
So if you just start to save data there and there, it won't work. It will hit you in the face in some point. Security and governance is really important. And lastly, we need to deliver the value to the business. Everything that we create, we need to make sure that we're increasing the customer experience, improving the customer experience, we improving the business experience, we improving making the business more reliable. It's not just for like to just want
Yeah.
to move to the cloud. I
Yeah.
want to be sure that whatever that we do, we will need to impact the business in a positive way.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
the key takeaways that I want to just encapsulate this presentation with. Go a bit extended, but I hope that people got more familiar, and next time when you hear data on the cloud, it's not that scary for you.
Thank you so much. We are still under 1 hour, but
Cool.
I think this is where we'll end today's topic. Thank you so much, Ramon, again for giving us the time and explaining what data cloud is. Thank you to our listeners for listening to this episode, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you
Cheers.
very
Have a
much,
good day.
everyone. Thank you for connecting. Bye bye. Cheers.
Bye.